Well, in my last video, I had retreated to my camper shell. It was snowing, and I retired a lot earlier than I had planned to. I wanted to get the sunset views, and my plan was just to be at the Grand Canyon Lodge, to hike out to the Bright Angel Point, and get the views from there. That gives a nice view towards the west, and I'd prepped for that, but the snow got heavier and heavier, so I ended up going back probably 3 hours earlier than I would have liked to, because I was concerned about the roads getting back to my campsite. And as I got there, I already shared that I had to make some improvisation as far as setting my truck up to avoid getting wet with the snow that was coming down. I spent quite a bit of time in the truck. I got a later start the next morning than I would like to because it snowed most of the night. The wind blew. And when I woke up, there was a white wonderland right there where my campsite was. But in northern Arizona, which I have quite a bit of experience with, usually snow doesn't stay. If the sun's out, the snow will melt fairly quickly. Even if it's cold, because of the dryness, the snow will be kind of, due to sublimation, it'll just dry very quickly. So I drove over to the Kebab Lodge. I saw that they had a restaurant in a breakfast buffet. I got over there, and there weren't a lot of people. I pretty much had the place to myself, and I was talking to some of the people that work there, and they were talking about frozen pipes and the problems they had. When I left my campsite, it was 15 degrees, so it was still a very, very cold day. And I drove back to the entrance to the North Rim. There was quite a bit of snow still on the roads. You had to be very careful. Very conducive to black ice where other cars have compressed the snow, and in the shadows, the black ice can linger for quite a while. So what I decided to do was not go right to Grand Canyon Lodge this time, but to use the thawing time, as it was warming up, to go out to the most distant point. That's Point Imperial. It's also the highest. It's 8,800 feet and change. And the idea was there's just a little bit of a roundabout up there, kind of like a cul-de-sac that you can get a view from. And my plan was just to go view that quickly while the snow melted, and then get back in my truck and go down to the main portion, which is the Angel's Window and Camp Royal and Cape Royal, I'm sorry. And so that's exactly what I did, is I made a beeline out and hiked out to the Angel's Window and Cape Royal. There's a split in the trail. You can do both from the same parking area. But it was still pretty cold, but the sun was out. And as I hiked throughout the day, the snow got to be less and less. It was a winter wonderland, though. When I first got there was, on the little flowers, there were ice crystals that you could see. There was still some snow in the little trees, some icicles, but as I said, the snow doesn't last long this time of year in northern Arizona. I spent many hours exploring Cape Royal and Angel's Window. It's a really neat hike, and there's a split in the trail, and just the views of Angel's Window are spectacular. And then when you get up on the top of the point out there, if you're afraid of heights, it's probably not for you, but it's just a beautiful place to go and visit. The trails, as long as you stayed on the improved portion, weren't too hard. There were areas where you could go to that were optional, lookouts or viewpoints. Some of those were a little bit challenging. I had that earlier clip showing the snow still on the trail on day 3, but for my part, the trail was in pretty good condition because the sun had been out. But apparently overnight we had fog, and some things had refroze by the time I got there on day 3. Day 3 had some clouds and fog that were spectacularly beautiful. I really never quite felt at home at the lodge. I had talked to people that had stayed there before. They said it was very expensive for the quality of the lodging. And I did, before I went out and just sat in their chairs or anything, I felt like I needed to buy something, whether it was a coffee or a hot chocolate, just because you end up walking through the facility to go out to the seating area. So that's what I did. I did at this time make a brief expedition out just to look at the Bright Angel Trail, but I decided to get back to my campsite. It was already starting to get cold, and I figured the next day I'd get a really early start. The weather was supposed to be good. Wow, it was really worth waiting for. Day 3 had the spectacular skies that I'd wanted. Nothing is more boring than a photographer than a mostly blue sky. This time I had clouds, I had environmental fog hanging around, and I got a real early start. I was still being real careful on the roads because there was still some residual ice in the shadows, but I got out to all the points that I'd visited the day before, at least got a vantage from the best of those. So here I'd planned to get out and head on to Mesquite, Nevada, but instead I just decided to make the most of the day because the lighting was spectacular. And in the afternoon, there was some smoke or haze that came in, but it added another beautiful element to the day. So here I thought I'd have a short day 3 in the Grand Canyon in the North Rim, but instead I just maximized the photography. I hope you all enjoy the clips and the photos. I certainly enjoyed this time, and I don't know if I'm going to get back. There's many obligations at my point in life, but man, the question is it worth visiting? For me, it certainly was. I didn't get to Mesquite, Nevada till about 1 a.m. in the morning, but it's like Vegas. The town's just really cooking at 1 a.m., so it didn't hurt me a bit, other than being a little sleepy driving.